prospects. And win numbers how we want, and then I'll make that commitment to them that I'm going to retire. March 20's breakout session of how top officers talk about, and they're going to be sharing their ideas and success stories with that. We have Michael Sharp. He's a senior as your prospects. Okay, Gary, and thank you for having me. We will through
from me to I can't really.
But yes, I took it, put it on the sheet, had the disclaimer added at the bottom, had it approved through the legal department, and that's what I use. But it's directly from the Canon Financial workbook. That's great. I tell you, I'm a certified wealth strategist myself, and I highly urge everybody to go through those courses. It's a great designation. It really shows you how you can interact with a client. Lots of videos and role playing. It's a tremendous course. Thank you for sharing that, Michael. Colin, yeah, thank you. Tell us a little bit about your 3-meeting sales process and to make that you've experienced. Thank you for sharing that, Michael. Colin, yeah, thank you. Tell us a little bit about your 3-meeting sales process and the success that you've experienced utilizing that 3-step process.
So my firm is very process based. We've gotten much more through.
Thank you for sharing that, Michael. Colin, yeah, thank you. Tell us a little bit about your 3-meeting sales process and the success that
Process based first meeting. The goal, my planning, and really
tremendous job of growing your practice that are
how their life is going, actually proud.
That are leveraging the client portal piece of it. That's really truly the value add piece of it. It's really allowing advisors to have those collaborative and more meaningful and deeper conversations with their clients. And it's a differentiator for you as a financial professional from your competitors down the corner. So thank you for sharing that with us, Colin. Jessica, thank you for joining us this morning. You've done a tremendous job of tremendous and that are leveraging the client portal piece of it. That's really truly the value add piece of it. It's really allowing advisors to have those collaborative and more meaningful and deeper conversations with their clients. And it's a differentiator for you as a financial professional from your competitors down the corner. So thank you for sharing that with us, Colin. Jessica, thank you for joining us this morning. You've done a tremendous job of growing your practice through existing clients referring to you. How do you integrate the referral discussion in the sales process? Type of Jessica, the instrumental. Look at the clients that I work with. All right, it's differentiate myself and deepen those relationships with the client, and all of these people, work from the client perspective and through the eyes of the client. I think that is just so critical. Michael, you've done an awesome job on segmenting your book of business, and it's been, obviously,
how did they start?
Differentiate myself and deepen those relationships with the client, and all of these people, work from the client perspective and through the eyes of the client. I think that is just so critical. Michael, you've done an awesome job on segmenting your book of business, and it's been, I would agree.
So
you do an incredible job. Works.
Activities.
Doing a lot of
not a lot of fun. Now pilot for young dogs.
Planning.
the only things young doctors.
Planning.
Young doctors, millionaires themselves. Got me introduced to his brother, got me introduced to his cousin. I mean, once you start down that line, you get all of them. So, I've got a whole folder from this one client now.
That's awesome. I tell you, talk about putting together a full wealth plan strategy for a client. That's incredible. It's just so frustrating when we work with advisors and they don't get into that side of it, because people need protection planning. That's just so important, especially now with long-term care. Average married couple now, one of them are going to live to age 92. That's a long time to be living, and to be able to put that together for people, that's a real tribute to you, Colin. Why don't we pause here and let's see if we have any questions in the chat, and we can take some of those questions.
It's me.
Oh,
Yeah, I actually have a problem with the camera. For some reason, it's coming out the back, not the front, and I can't figure out why.
You have to re-sign in and then go to the settings.
What settings?
When I did it, I went into my computer and I turned the camera around. The computer guy for this thing showed me to go to something. Yeah, just type. So, do you have the Surface or no?
Yep.
If you have the Surface, just type in screen and it should come right up. Screen.
All right.
Hold on, that guy, he's really nice, this computer guy that's on here. Hang on 1 second. Let me see if I can figure out, because I changed my whole settings.
Yes, I tried to change settings that are on this.
Well, listen, I want to first of all, I want to thank everybody for joining us here for this morning's breakout session of how top financial professionals are operating in this new era. My name is Gary Hassenfratz, and I'm a growth officer, relationship manager with Cetera Investment Services. I am so pleased to be here this morning. And I tell you, I think we have an incredible panel to talk about how we're operating in this new era. As we all know, our whole world has changed back in early February and March of this year, and how we interact with our clients and how clients interact with professionals has completely changed. And our entire session this morning is going to be geared around how our top financial professionals are operating in this new era. We have three of the finest advisors on the Cetera Investment Services platform, and Cetera Investors as well, our newest firm. And they're going to be sharing their ideas and success stories with that. We have Michael Sharp. He's a senior financial advisor with Regions Investment Solutions. Thank you, Michael, for being a participant on this panel. We have Colin Kelty, who is the president of AFIN Family Wealth Management. Thank you, Colin, for taking time out of your schedule. We have Jessica Wars with Cetera Investors, senior financial advisor with them. So once again, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us. Why don't we start with you, Michael? Tell us a little bit about how you're utilizing the 13 wealth management principles as a part of your sales process with clients as well as your prospects.
Okay, Gary, and thank you for having me. I use the 13 wealth management principles to really create a partnership with myself and the client, and to put down on paper our goals and how we're going to work through them. So when I begin working with someone and I really want to develop that relationship with them, we'll sit down with the 13 wealth management principles and we'll number them. I have the client take a pen and number them based on their priorities. And obviously, sometimes there are ones that don't apply to them if they're not a business owner or whatever. So we'll scratch those out. But I have them hand number them in importance to them. And then we talk through it. So, if something doesn't make sense, we'll talk about it and we'll get the numbers how we want. And then I'll make that commitment to them that I'm going to address number one with them as we start the relationship. So maybe that's retirement planning. And so we'll get a plan together using Money Guide Pro and the various tools that we have to put together a plan that lets them attain their retirement goals. And then as we go through the relationship and as time passes, we will address those one at a time. And I make that commitment to them that we're going to address one every time we meet or get together or talk. And we just work our way through the list. And it allows us to have a guide in our relationship. It holds me accountable to the client. And it makes them feel good that their issues and their problems and the roadblocks that they see in their way are being addressed. And from time to time, we have to alter it and we change it as things change in their life. But it really creates a good game plan for us to manage through together.
So is this a handout then, Michael, that obviously is client approved? Is it something that you built yourself then?
I took it directly from the Canon Financial, the CWS certification. But yes, I took it, put it on a sheet, had the disclaimer added at the bottom, had it approved through the legal department, and that's what I use. But it's directly from the Canon Financial workbook.
That's great. I tell you, I'm a certified wealth strategist myself, and I highly urge everybody to go through those courses. It's a great designation. It really shows you how you can interact with a client. Lots of videos and role playing. It's a tremendous course. Thank you for sharing that, Michael. Colin,
Yeah, thank you.
tell us a little bit about your 3-meeting sales process and the success that you've experienced utilizing that 3-step process.
So my firm is very process based. We've gotten much more process based during the pandemic, just because processes make everything more efficient, and we were all working from home. That became really important. Plus, the admin staff had a lot of time working from home to refine those processes down. But one of the ones that has always existed, every client of AFIN Family Wealth Management gets a plan. Every plan starts with a 3-meeting process. There's actually a meeting 1A, I would say, and 1B. So 1A is an email along with a phone call from me to introduce myself, usually for a referral. That is, just setting the groundwork so they know my name and everything. We can get right into planning. We do the first meeting. Sometimes it's a virtual call now, but usually it's a phone call. And then my assistant sends out a 1-pager essentially that has all the stuff I think is a good idea for them to have available to me for planning last year's taxes, all their statements, things like that. But also we have very much bought into AdviceWorks. So we send an invite out to everybody for AdviceWorks. And then with instructions on how to start loading that stuff so that they don't actually have to email me anything. They can upload everything to AdviceWorks and or link all of their accounts. I ideally like to have that ready for meeting number 1. Meeting number 1 is a little bit more of that, what I call soft planning. We talk about their goals, what they're already doing, what they understand about investments. I learn a lot about their life, a lot about them. They learn about me. Probably talk too much about me, but you want to bridge that gap. So you want them to know as much about you and your kids and your dog and everything as you know about them, so that they feel more comfortable. And then if they haven't linked things on their own, I run through I do all my planning through AdviceWorks. I run through Money Guide to the point of where we get to linking assets, and I help them link the first one, and then tell them their homework is to finish linking everything else. And then I start to review all of what they've linked for meeting number 2. Meeting number 2 is the real financial planning part. We talk about their assets. We talk about how much they contribute to those accounts that they've linked. We talk about how much they pay on their debts. Try to manually add anything they couldn't link. But having to manually add as little as possible saves a lot of time. So I'm all about efficiency there. But we also talk a lot about how that money relates to what they're trying to do. And it just really builds out the trust because we talk about everything from property casualty insurance to taxes to everything, stock plans, whatever. I get all that plugged in, and then I tell them, the third meeting, which backing up, there's usually a week between meeting number 1 and number 2. And I give them time to add everything. Third meeting, 2 weeks out from meeting number 2. 2 reasons. 1, I want enough time to actually go through everything. Even if there isn't a lot to go through, I want it to feel like there is for every client. So everybody gets 2 weeks. Even if it won't necessarily take me that long, it sets the expectation that planning is hard, and regardless of how hard their plan is, I'm going to spend the time on it. So everybody understands that even though I'm busy, I'm actually spending time on this. Then before meeting number 3, I send them a copy of the finished plan through AdviceWorks again. And then I review that with them, and I call that the action step meeting. That's the meeting where I tell them everything that they should do and lay out the plan process of how we're going to get all of that done. For many people, it's going to take months, maybe even years. I do a lot of estate planning, and that part takes a long time. But at the very least, I give them step 1, step 2, step 3, step 35, whatever, and then we start the process. If I always try to back it up and say, well, if you decide to work with us, but if they let me get to that point in the plan, usually they're going to work with us. So it's a pretty good process to really get me there. And then generally in meeting number 3, we start the first part of the process, which is almost always asset consolidation.
Let me ask you, Colin, when you're leveraging the AdviceWorks and the client portal piece of it, have you found any of your clients or prospects to be reluctant on, putting in that data and sharing that with you?
Not terribly. I mean, I get the occasional, is this safe? And my answer is the same as any time. Yes, in as much as anything online is safe. I mean, there's, my go-to answer is linking this information to the plan. You're going to give me the paper form of it anyway, so you obviously don't care that I look at it. And there's much more risk of somebody trying to break into your actual online bank account than into your plan through AdviceWorks, because none of your information is really saved in there. They can't access any of your accounts. No transactions can be done through those links. So I can't mess with your money. And neither can anybody who got in through our system. So, is it safe? Just as safe as anything else online, which is to say, yes, I'm not worried about you entering it. Don't give me your username and passwords. I don't want them. Go ahead and link them yourself. Get it all on there. And the real selling point, I think, to clients is, once you quickly go through the safety measures, the fact that Cetera spends a lot of money on making sure that their data encryption is as safe as possible. So does Money Guide. That's why they use Yodlee. Is to just explain that by doing this, the plan becomes a living thing. So if you don't link assets, a plan that's not updated at least quarterly becomes a static and useless thing after a year. So if you're not, if you're building plans for your clients and you're not updating it regularly and really plugging in the numbers, having them resubmit statements to you all the time, you're not, the plan doesn't really help them much after a little bit. But with AdviceWorks, it saves me every quarterly meeting where I would usually have to spend 20 or 30 minutes of updating all their information. Now I get to spend that 20 or 30 minutes talking to them about how their life is going, actually prospecting, and it makes those new appointments much more efficient. And every time they log on, they get to see their real net worths.
That's incredible. I tell you, we really are starting to see the adoption of AdviceWorks and the advisors that are leveraging the client portal piece of it. That's really truly the value add piece of it. It's really allowing advisors to have those collaborative and more meaningful and deeper conversations with their clients. And it's a differentiator for you as a financial professional from your competitors down the corner. So thank you for sharing that with us, Colin. Jessica, thank you for joining us this morning. You've done a tremendous job of growing your practice through existing clients referring to you. How do you integrate the referral discussion in the sales process?
Sure. So I've always used referrals to build my business. It starts with the initial meeting. I basically tell more about myself and how I've built my business through referrals, so it gets it out of the way right off the bat. In addition to that, throughout the first meeting, I continuously ask open-ended questions. And those open-ended questions are, tell me about your family, because typically when I learn more about someone, I'm going to learn about their circle of friends or their influencers, and then I can use that as a further discussion in order to get referrals in the future. Right now, as we've gone through COVID, it's a little bit different, not necessarily walking into businesses and being able to introduce myself along the way and get referrals that way. So I've actually changed how I get referrals a little bit. I've been able to, I guess, have the discussion of what's the most difficult thing that you've been faced with COVID. And then as they tell me about the struggles that they're having, inherently, someone also then asks what struggles I've been having. And I said, well, the most struggle that I've had so far since working from home and only doing virtual meetings is that I haven't been out and about and gotten as many referrals as I did. And that's how I've always continued to grow. So it opens up that discussion and I'm able to have that with my clients. And then, like I said, inherently, they do continue to refer me.
That's great, Jessica. When it sounds like you're a real relationship type of person. Then, what are you looking for when you first make that contact with a with a prospective client? What type of questions are you asking them?
So I ask them just to get a better sense of who they are and what their goals are long term and what they're comfortable with and what their past experiences has been. Because clearly they're sitting with me because their past experiences haven't been so great. So that influence is able to, basically help me understand if it's going to be a good fit or if it's not, how I can truly help them. And then, basically provide a strategic advantage for myself to understand their situation and plan better for them. Yeah, so each of the accounts that someone has, I do ask exactly, how did they start the account, who helped them with it, and so on and so forth. And that also extends into referrals too.
That's great, Jessica. I tell you, as I was interviewing the panel, I kept hearing the word client. What am I doing to differentiate myself and deepen those relationships with the client? And all of these people, work from the client perspective and through the eyes of the client. I think that is just so critical. Michael, you've done an awesome job on segmenting your book of business, and it's been, obviously very instrumental in the success that you've enjoyed in your practice. How did you go about segmenting your book, and how has it helped you engage with your clients better?
Yeah. So really, I sat down and I took a deep look at the clients that I work with, because at some point you have to decide who and how am I going to work with people. And the relationship really is different depending on the level of planning and the level of strategizing you're doing with a client. And so I really segmented my book out, and not as a, as a practice in your manager says segment your book out, or someone suggests you do that, but really looking at what kind of relationship I have with each individual family and each individual client, and what kind of relationship I want to have with them. So I really did a deep dive and looked at where I am and where I want to be with them. And one of the best things I did for my practice was really moving some clients out back to our sales and service team to free up some of my time to work with those A clients, or advocates, as I like to call them. I really want to spend my time working with those people that I have a deep relationship with, or that I want to develop a deep relationship with. And being part of, the institutional side of things, there are people I work with that are bank customers that I buy a CD for, and it's very transactional, and it never turns into that deep relationship. And that's fine. That's a part of what I do. But that type of customer, I don't want to spend as much time on them as I do with someone who is a true client of mine and who I work with, and I intend to work with their children, and I do a lot of planning for. It's two different types of relationships, and being able to recognize that and manage my practice with that knowledge has really helped me to spend time where I need to spend time.
Michael, let me ask you, were you hesitant at first to start relinquishing clients, or was this your idea, or how did this idea unfold with you?
Yeah, it's hard. It's very, very hard. So much of what's ingrained in me is gather assets, work with as many people as you can, bring in assets. So yeah, to relinquish assets is opposite of everything that is natural to me, and I would imagine to a lot of people. But if you really sit down and you look at your book of business, and there are people that you don't enjoy working with, and you don't have a good relationship with, and you can't ever see that going anywhere and developing, then there's other places that you can spend that time that will be much more fruitful. So yes, it is absolutely hard to do. it's scary. It's not something that feels natural to say, take this $3 million and move it to back office and let it be serviced by someone else. Um, but after you do it, after you do that, then all of a sudden, you want to look for more. You want to get more off your plate so you can spend more time with your A clients, your advocates, however you label them. Spend the time with the people that is really going to be a long-term relationship if you truly are in the business for the long run.
There's something to be said once you reach that level of success in this business of being able to, like you say, keep your advocates and the clientele that enjoy your advice, find value in it, and allow you to do the right thing with them. It's an operational efficiency piece of it. Cetera is an incredible tool. It's called the client segmentation tool, and it's on SmartWorks. It's within the Pentameter tool, and I urge everybody to go in and take a look at it. It's really, really a quality tool, and it's easy to utilize. We're also going to be coming out with a newer tool as well on AdviceWorks and the advisor portal. So stay tuned for that. A lot of good technologies that's going to be rolled out in the future. Thank you for sharing that. Colin, you do an incredible job of taking that planning-led approach with your clients and prospects, and obviously it's been, extremely successful for you. You're leveraging the client portal. You're seeing the value from it. Your clients are seeing the value of it. What function of it that you think is most value to you in your practice, like the data aggregation piece of it, the ability to share documents? What are some other ways that you're leveraging the client portal?
I would say pretty much all the technology you just mentioned is integral to making the planning-led approach work the way we do it. Even before I had the tools, I did planning. It just took a lot longer, and it was harder. So I would usually before I started using AdviceWorks, I was already using MoneyGuide, but before I started integrating as much technology as I could into this, and this is even before the pandemic, I was trying to, I get to like 54% buy-in for AdviceWorks right now. I'm trying to get to 100, but 54% of my clientele is on it. But before, a meeting would go along the lines of what I'm sure a lot of you do, where I would start a plan, and when you're doing planning for a client, generally there's a lot to start with. So they would come in with like a box or a file folder full of documents, and that first meeting is never great because you're like, well, okay, I'm going to spend 20 minutes talking to you while I'm pretending to go through these pages. I'm going to really spend several hours behind the scene going through everything. Someone on my team is going to spend several hours, putting in each one of those securities and trying to build the plan out. I'm going to have to go through manually your taxes. It's a lot. And then usually, clients aren't the most organized people in the world. So then I have to go back and get more information. So that 3 meeting system that I like becomes 6 meetings. And just like, we were just talking about client segmentation and trying to make your time more efficient, which is brilliant. Yeah, it's definitely totally important. We also need to make the time you spend with those AAA, because we rate them AAA, AA, A, and then if you get below A, you need to be segmented to somebody else. Spend that time with AAA clients. Ideally, it shouldn't all be numbers. 80% of the meeting really is talking and making sure that you have that real connection. 20% should be the plan. But if you're having to go through real paperwork and talk about each individual thing, it becomes too much. It becomes a 50-50 split, and those relationships just aren't as strong. So I think the biggest and most important integrations are the ability to link, because other people had it. So I was already having to have the conversation of why can I do this at Fidelity, but I can't do it here. So the ability for them to link those outside assets, not only so that I can see them and better aggregate everything, because if you link it all, and I'll notice when we sit down, we have a meeting, like, hey, you've got $600,000 in cash now. Why? Let's talk about that. Or it literally just had that meeting. Or hey, your mortgage is at 5.5%. Do you know what mortgage rates look like right now? I do that referral all day long. So there's a lot of pieces there that are really important. It's also extremely important that we push the ability for a client to safely upload documents to me so that I don't have to have somebody email and have the issue of